Have you ever wondered if one single moment could change everything? I mean, completely reshape the world as we know it. Today, we're diving into a battle that, had it gone the other way, would have made our modern world utterly unrecognizable. We're not just talking about a different flag over a capital city. We're talking about a fundamental shift in philosophy, science, and the very idea of what it means to be human. The year is 480 BC. A massive Persian army, led by the god King Xerxes, is marching into Greece. Their numbers are staggering, a force unlike anything the world had ever seen. The independent Greek city-states, famous for their squabbling, are faced with a choice: submit or be annihilated. Many chose submission. But a handful, led by Athens and Sparta, decided to fight. Their stand would echo through eternity. This wasn't just a clash of armies, it was a clash of civilizations. On one side, you have the Persian Empire, a vast, centralized monarchy where the king's word was absolute law, a divine decree. It was a society built on hierarchy, conquest, and obedience to a single, all-powerful ruler. Impressive in its own right, with incredible engineering and administration, but fundamentally autocratic. On the other side, you have the Greeks, particularly the Athenians. They were experimenting with a radical new idea: democracy. The notion that ordinary citizens, not gods or kings, should have the power to govern themselves. They were also birthing philosophy, asking why about the universe. They were developing theater, exploring the human condition through drama and comedy. This was a culture of questioning, of individual worth, and of civic participation. The first major stand was at a narrow coastal pass called Thermopylae. You've probably heard of the 300 Spartans. Their heroic sacrifice wasn't about winning the battle, it was about buying time. Time for the rest of Greece to prepare. They held off Xerxes' immense army for 3 days, a feat that became a legend of courage against impossible odds. But it was a tactical loss. The Persians broke through. They marched on Athens, a city that had been evacuated. Xerxes, in his fury, burned the Acropolis to the ground. From a military perspective, it looked like the end. The Persian land army was rampaging through Greece, and their navy controlled the seas. The Greek resistance seemed utterly crushed. The dream of democracy was about to be extinguished in the very place it was born. But the Athenian general, the brilliant strategist named the Mysticles, had a plan. He knew they couldn't win on land. Their only hope was the sea. He had convinced the Athenians years earlier to invest their newfound silver wealth into building a powerful navy of advanced warships called triremes. Now, he used a clever trick. He sent a fake deserter to Xerxes, telling him the Greek fleet was demoralized and planning to flee from their position in the narrow straits of Salamis. Xerxes, arrogant and overconfident, took the bait. He ordered his massive fleet to block the exits of the strait and attack the Greeks at dawn. This was exactly what the Mysticles wanted. In the open sea, the sheer number of Persian ships would have overwhelmed the Greeks, but in the tight, confined space of the Salamis Straits, their numbers became a disadvantage. Imagine the scene. Hundreds of heavy, less maneuverable Persian ships crowding into a narrow channel, bumping into each other, their lines of command breaking down in the chaos. And then, the lighter, faster Greek triremes struck. They rode in perfect unison, ramming the Persian vessels with bronze-plated battering rams, shearing off their oars, and boarding them with marines. It wasn't a battle, it was a slaughter. The superior seamanship and tactical brilliance of the Greeks turned the Persians' greatest strength, their numbers, into a fatal weakness, from a high throne on the shore. Xerxes watched in horror as his invincible navy was systematically dismantled and sunk. The defeat was so total, so catastrophic, that it broke the back of the Persian invasion. Fearing that the Greeks would sail to block his retreat route, Xerxes fled back to Asia with a large part of his army, leaving a smaller force behind that would be defeated the following year. The Battle of Salamis was the turning point. The Greeks had won. So, why was this single naval battle so important? What if the Greeks had lost? What if Xerxes had crushed them at Salamis? Well, first, the idea of democracy would have likely died in its infancy. Athens, the cradle of this concept, would have become just another conquered province in a Persian empire. The idea of citizen rule, of voting, of public debate, it might have been seen as a failed, foolish experiment, a footnote in history. The dominant political model for the next 1,000 years and beyond would have been absolute monarchy, the rule of the god-king. The philosophical foundations of Western civilization, which value individual liberty and self-governance, might never have taken root. Second, the Golden Age of Greece, which followed the Persian Wars, would never have happened. This was the era that gave us Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, the fathers of Western philosophy. It gave us Herodotus and Thucydides, the first true historians. It gave us the Parthenon, a marvel of architecture. It gave us the foundations of modern mathematics, drama, and medicine. All of this cultural explosion was fueled by the confidence and freedom that came from their victory. Under Persian rule, this intellectual fire would have been snuffed out. Greek thinkers would have been subjects, not citizens, their inquiries likely suppressed if they challenged the authority of the state. Imagine a world without the Socratic method of questioning everything. A world where science remained tied to mysticism and state-sanctioned dogma, rather than developing into a system of observation and logical deduction pioneered by the Greeks. The Renaissance, the scientific revolution, the Enlightenment, all of these major movements in Western history drew heavily on the rediscovery of Greek thought. Without that source material, would they have happened at all? Or would they have been profoundly different? Our world today is built on a Greek foundation. Our political language is filled with Greek words: democracy, politics, republic. Our scientific and medical terminology is largely Greek. Our architecture constantly references Greek columns and proportions. The very idea of a play, a tragic hero, a philosophical debate, it all comes back to this one small group of people who, against all odds, decided to fight for their freedom in the Straits of Salamis. If they had lost, it's not just that our maps would be different. Our entire way of thinking would be different. We might live in a world where the rights of the individual are subordinate to the will of the state, not as a political choice, but as a fundamental and questioned truth. A world where rational inquiry is seen as dangerous and obedience is the highest virtue. The victory at Salamis ensured that the Greek experiment could continue. It allowed a different path for humanity to unfold, one based on logic, freedom, and the power of the individual citizen. It's a powerful reminder that history isn't inevitable. It's shaped by moments of incredible courage and conviction. The world we live in today, with all its flaws and all its freedoms, owes an immeasurable debt to those Greek sailors who, 2,500 years ago, refused to let their world be extinguished. Thanks for watching. If you found this journey back in time as fascinating as I did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the moments that shaped our world. Let me know in the comments what other pivotal battles you think changed history. See you next time.